So welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be installing a rear drawer or shelf or whatever you want to call this in the back of your tailgate for your 60 series Landcruiser. The reason I made this video is because the instructions are actually for an 80 series Landcruiser and it's not exactly the same. So I thought I'd make a video to give a bit of clarification on that, where to cut, how to install exactly, and yeah, give you a bit more confidence when it goes to cutting into your 38-year-old car, because these tailgates are not easy to find. This is made by Hurricane Fabrication tailgate storage unit. It's pretty cheap. It is more expensive if you get it covered in carpet, but I'm eventually getting rid of this, so I don't really want that anyway, but I quite like the black on white look. So why might one want to put one of these in the back of their car? Well, if you're like me and you have a big bag full of recovery gear in case you get stuck, or tie down equipment in case you want to buy something online, you need to strap it to the roof, this is a great place to put all those little finicky things that you wouldn't otherwise think of. Like, so we got some strops in here, got some emergency nappies for the little fella, put those in there, a rugby ball in case we go to the beach and we forget one, a first aid kit, that's always helpful, put that in there, a kite in case it gets windy, snorkel, and a vortex. What else can we put in here? We've got another rugby ball, perfect, and a tomahawk in case you need to make a campfire, or you need to bang in some tent pegs, or you need to remove some tent pegs. This is actually a really good one. I found this at a garage sale. Awesome find. So that bag that was full of crap and rolling around the back of my car is now hidden in my tailgate, which is pretty good. Obviously you don't want to overload this too much because you still have to lift it up and put it back. I'm pretty excited about this actually. So first things first, you want to take this off, and one thing that I did notice, because I had to take all this apart when I was painting it to get to these components here so that I could take it off and paint underneath them, there's actually quite a few electronics and stuff under here. So that's where you want to start. You want to start by taking these off, getting all those electronics out of the way, because I believe we are going to grind around the outside here and cut this piece of metal out, so that one fits right in. I've done the outline on here, and I believe that you're supposed to go 50 mils in from this edge bit here, measure a line across there, and then it says apparently 225 mils in from this back edge here. But the thing that's concerning for me is the instructions are on an 80 series Landcruiser, so you can't actually see exactly what you're looking at here. What I've done here is I've actually lined up the holes here, opened it up and seen where that line comes to, and it seems to be correct on the top, but not necessarily on the bottom. Obviously your own fitment is your best judge of what's going to work or not, but the edge of this comes to this line here, so it's actually about halfway through, just above where it dips back in, and I was concerned that if I went inside anymore, then I would actually have a sharp edge coming around this corner, which I don't really want, and I would also have a sharp edge just on this corner here. So this line sits just on the inside of here where this little lip starts to raise up, so I thought that should do, but obviously measure 4 times, cut once. And I've double checked all these wires are out of the way. These are from my reversing camera, so I'll tuck them all in this side, cut along here, bring them back, tuck them all on this side, and you want to make sure that you're not cutting too deep along here. Make sure that you've got a fresh grinder blade before you take on anything like this. changing blades, take the battery out because you don't accidentally want this to turn on for any reason whatsoever. And another thing to keep in mind when you're grinding something of this length, you don't want to sort of cut it all the way through. So I've sort of left a little patch here, patch here, patch here to sort of hold the metal in place, because if you cut this whole line and then you go to cut this whole line, the whole thing's going to shake as you go. It's going to make it a lot harder to get a straight line. So, but yeah, sort of like cutting it in, you know, increments like that, just so that you've got a little bit to hold it. And once you've done and got the line as straight as possible, just go through, zip, 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 cut it all off, finish it off. Okay, so what I just encountered there was actually not in the instructions, but underneath here, there are like some support things clipped in here. So there's one here, there's one here, and then there's one somewhere in here. And instead of cutting them and then having to wedge them off, because the grinder wasn't quite long enough to actually get through it with one cut, I actually just tapped it with a hammer. And they're just small little, like, I don't know if they're like pinch welds, or they're not held in very strongly. So just give it a smack with a hammer, and then you sort of got to wiggle it to the side to make it pop off where it's stuck onto the underside of this, but there's no bolt or anything holding it in. So smack it with a hammer, rip it out. There's no real beautiful way to do this. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I'm not doing it, so whatever. But yeah, that's how to get it out. So now to tidy up the edges, put some sound deadening under this, and then just paint the edges with some anti-corrosion paint. So if you've been following this channel for a while, you'll know how big of a fan I am of the Bill Hirsch Miracle Paint, which has recently been branded to POR 15, Paint Over Rust 15. It's a really good solution to painting directly over any rusty spots that you can't really be bothered doing properly. And I've just given it a little light coat just over top of everything to give it a bit of a protective seal from, you know, when I'm bashing and crashing on top of everything. You don't have to repaint this whole thing. The main thing here is just to get some paint along the edges here, where you scrape back the paint to reveal some of the metal, because you don't want that oxidizing and then rusting through. That's not what you want. So I've gone a bit overboard with the paint. You don't need to do that. Just paint these edges or wherever you've cut back. So when it comes to the little latches here, what you need to do is, to start off with, you need to unlock it. Click this little button in, open it up, get a little 10 mil, of course. Oh, loosen this nut on the bottom off until you can untwist it with your hand. Undo that all the way, open it up, slot it inwards like that so it's nice and flush. And obviously you can't close it right now. Put that little metal bracket back on and screwing that in. And it's as simple as that. Obviously when it comes time, get your 10 mil again. Oh, wrong way, of course. And tighten that on as such. Solid. You'll notice that you might not be able to close this all the way, and that's because you can adjust this little nut here. But simple, click, click, open, boom, done. And you can have access to adjusting these whenever you need to. How good's that? All right, so now comes the actual installation of this thing. So what you'll need is a 13mm socket and a little Allen key. I think it's a 5mm Allen key. So I've just got one of these. Definitely worth it instead of looking around for lost Allen keys. So pretty much, once you put your locking mechanisms on, you want to open this up, line it up as best you can with the holes that you've got, especially if the paint's still wet like it is for me. I'm just going to put one in each corner. And it's about now that I'm realizing how important it is to trim back the edges of these properly, because if these were sharp, my hand would be sliced to bits by now. So make sure you take a bit of time using a wire wheel or even some sandpaper on a block, just scuffing that back, making sure that it's not sharp. So before I tighten any of these up fully, I'm just going to make sure that I can get all of them in, fitting snugly, because as soon as you start tightening them up, you're going to have less movement to thread the bolts through these little holes, and they have to line up pretty perfectly. So all of them seem to match up pretty well. See the little bolts here, except for this one. I'm not exactly sure what's going on with that one, and this one doesn't seem to fit exactly. Now I haven't tightened these up properly yet either, but I'm pretty happy with that. That is looking schmick. Big fan of that, big fan of that. So I'm gonna go through, tighten these all up now. Boom, look at that. Not bad at all. Fits in there, so that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that actually. Pretty impressed with the overall build quality. Unfortunately, two of these holes didn't match up, but at some point I'm going to use those for like a rolling camera setup. So I want to be able to at some point drive the car over a bridge with a gimbal camera setup out the back, and I'll have to clip it into something securely on the inside. So I'm actually pretty happy about that. So I'm going to make that work to my advantage. If you want to pick one of these up for yourselves, go check out Hurricane Fabrications. If you want to see more of the stuff that I create, check out Nathaniel's Life on Instagram and some other videos on YouTube, where I have done a bit of a breakdown on all the sort of building things that I've managed to do so far on this truck, which includes giving it a two-tone paint job, retrimming door cards, and removing all the different components that are necessary to actually give it that paint job. Cool. That's all from me. I'm Nathaniel. Until next time, stay safe.